Let's move now to the Feingold-Johnson race. Russ Feingold and Ron Johnson had a fairly tight race 6 years ago. The two of them will face each other again in November, and that race is already heating up, Dan.
Which is a huge difference from last time, because Ron Johnson got into the race in May of 2010.
I forgot about that. You're right.
And so the race was very short. Now this time, Russ Feingold got into the race in May, but that was a year ago in May in 2015. So there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of money. Millions are already being spent on this race. And I wrote a piece this week about this. And I was interested in the issue of Ron Johnson, where when he was elected, he came in focused almost exclusively on one issue, and that was the national debt. I don't know, do you remember? I mean, that was about the only subject you could get him to talk about.
I do remember that.
But since the election started, and recently in the last couple of months, he's been focused on national security, saying that that's the key issue in the race. So I went back and looked at his attendance record as a member of the Homeland Security Committee. And what I found was in his first 4 years in office, he missed about 60% of the meetings on border security, 9/11, homegrown terrorism, those sorts of things. And the campaign pushed back and pointed out that since he became chairman of that committee last year, he's made it to 94% of the committee meetings, which you would hope the chairman would do that. But more substantively, they responded by saying, look at Russ Feingold and his numbers when he was a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. And in that case, he missed about half of the hearings. And if you throw in the work sessions, he made it to about 58, 59% of the meetings overall. So in the end, you end up with criticism of Ron Johnson for his first 4 years on Homeland Security, and then criticism of Feingold for his from 2005 to 2010 as a member of the Foreign Relations Committee.
So it's interesting. This is sort of classic politics. You have a story, and one side says, well, the other guy's no better. He does the same thing. So what's the big deal? And you did have somebody in the story, I think it was interesting. It said, well, the fact of the matter is no one goes to all these meetings because you can't. There's not enough hours in a day. But I thought what was interesting, we were talking about this earlier, is the reaction that you got to the story. Talk a little bit about that.
The reaction from the campaigns?
Yes,
yeah,
from the campaigns.
It was neither camp was happy with in particular the headlines on the story.
It's always the headline.
But also I think the Feingold people are saying that there's a false equivalency between the two because they're not making foreign policy the key issue, whereas Ron Johnson's making Homeland Security a key issue. The Johnson people weren't happy that I didn't write the story saying that they both had been absent a good deal of the time from their committee meetings and to made it a hit on both candidates. I mean, I did, in a sense. I included all of the criticism. And in fact, there was much more devoted to Feingold's voting pattern, his attendance record in the piece that I wrote. But yeah, it was just pretty amazing how both sides were not happy with that.
You were like getting text messages or phone calls like
2
o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
right?
People on both sides were very unhappy about it.